Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with Los Angeles Thieves and Envoy winning the Call of Duty World Championship for 2022. Lots of discussion has been what is next for this OpTic's Texas team. They let go of Envoy last season, he goes the way of Los Angeles Thieves, have a difficult start to the season, wins the World Championship at the end of it. Scump's been giving some indications as to what his future might be. Reading between the lines, he's probably going to stick around next season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss today. Of course, the winners, the world champions, so many great images, of course, of this one. Here's Kenny, the MVP. Bandana Kenny was never going to be defeated at the grand finals, let's be honest here. Over the weekend, I do think that probably Kenny was a deserving MVP. For the finals itself, I would have said Envoy. So many big plays. Yeah, the pictures from this event are always fantastic. Of course, in front of the Los Angeles home crowd in effect as well, makes it a little bit better. Now, wanted to talk about this upcoming title, right? Because Modern Warfare 2 is coming out soon. We're probably going to have 2 years of the CDL action on this game, which might be good, might be bad, depending on how good the game actually is. And as well, Doug said Martin saying right here to Joe Seagot, like, please, talking to you, make a good title, do X, do Y, do Z, and hopefully we can actually be in for a couple of years. Now, look, the game has pretty much already been designed and confirmed what it's going to be like. Doesn't really matter what the pros have to say a couple of months out. They're not going to change anything. That's how it goes. The pros never get input until the point where the game is effectively just done. So what the pros say doesn't really matter outside of maybe a few tweaks here or there. Now, first is some kind of sad news I thought here from Denza on Team War. Like a great result actually most recently. Didn't win, of course, the Challengers World Championships, but got rather close, all things considered. Denza's actually going to step away and retire, right? We've seen a lot of players who have kind of gone through the Challengers pit and maybe stepped away for Vanguard, the likes of Scraps and Waskin and even Aqua and others trying to make their return. I think even Dido said as well that he wants to come back and try and compete next season, going to start in Challengers for next season's game. And quite a lot of players actually that were quite good back in Modern Warfare. The original are probably going to come back as well. Okay, not COD 4, but, you know, Modern Warfare 2019, not the original, but you guys know what I mean. But Denza says, yeah, would have loved ending my career with a W, but good luck to everyone in the pits. My time here is done, right? So yes, does go to show that maybe the Challengers pit is not really it for many players. Even, I think Clayster has said, we'll talk about Clay here in a second, like, look, I cannot do one more year down there. Did a few months down there, struggled, like, I made it work in the end, got to the Challengers World Championship, fell short at top 6, but, you know, still, I'm not doing Challengers again, right? If it's the Pro League or nothing for Clayster next year. Now, just to sum up some of the incredibly terrible things about Call of Duty Vanguard, this, honestly, I don't know if this is just a Vanguard issue, because this was rumored a few months ago, that depending on what account you're on, the game can feel and be very different indeed. As like CleanX says, current controller can't throw a stun or pop deady. If anyone's a controller genius and knows how to fix, let me know. Now, apparently, he literally switched accounts with the same controller, and he could throw a stun without any issues. Gonna miss Vanguard, right? So I guess this is a Vanguard thing, but there has been some rumors that Activision has kind of done this. You make different accounts, and different accounts behave differently to kind of equate the skill levels in public games, but you'd think there's no way that's actually working for these kind of private accounts offline. Well, I guess LAN isn't really offline anymore. I don't know what's going on, but still, Vanguard being Vanguard, I suppose. And this is the other thing as well, actually, that Arcitys mentions. I saw this mentioned recently on Reddit, that like there's certain issues with the game in terms of the doors. Like certain doors on some maps, Berlin for example, if you're quite a long way away from the door, it just won't render in if you're looking in a certain way. So if you're looking kind of near the door or the breakable wall, and you look maybe like 45 degrees to the left or something, that door can just de-render. It's like, okay, I'm not going to bother rendering that door. So if someone's behind that door, you can just straight up see that player. So as Arcitys says, also to mention with the PCs in this game, if you looked at the ground and had doors or breakable walls in your field of view, you could see through them like they were open. You can see every cross in Berlin. God bless, this game is done. And as Octane says, I was doing this on Siege for 5 months, right? So pros have known about this for quite some time, but yes, just another example of why Vanguard has got to go. Let's talk Rostermania. Temp and attach mukbang coming soon indeed. Like, well, who knows if there actually is intel going on here, because we don't really know where attach is going to go. We don't know where temp is going to go, but two of the bigger name free agents during this offseason, no doubt. I would imagine that every team will change, with the exception of, I think OpTic's will stay, FaZe are going to stick for sure, and of course Los Angeles Thieves. The other 9 teams I think will at least consider a move. I think probably all of them will make a change, just because they've seen what Thieves have been able to do in terms of the dominance at the end of the season. They know how consistent FaZe are. Seattle, I think, can upgrade their ARs. Toronto aren't in a position to stick, I don't think so. I reckon we've got a 9-team Rostermania on our hands. And of course, Clayster's going to try and get on one of those teams. As he says, stream's coming back soon. Just got to start being dummy consistent just as a plan B in case I don't get a spot to be on the lookout, right? So that's the thing. Clay wants to get a spot next year. I think when his contract ends in a week, so effectively the way this works is the World Championship is done. In 1 week's time, everyone becomes a free agent that isn't re-signed. So if the contracts are at an end, then in a week's time, the players are just officially free agents and can go and talk talk to other teams, which I'm sure they're already doing, but can officially start signing stuff in a week's time in terms of the Rostermania period officially opening. But if a player is currently contracted, but the team doesn't want to renew them, then they also become a free agent. So the teams effectively have 1 week to decide, do they want to renew the players that they have the option of, or do they not? And if they don't, then those players become free agents. So it's quite a quick turnaround, right? Like, these teams have to figure out within the next 7 days, effectively what they want to do with their team. Do they want to drop this guy, keep this guy, whatever? And if they don't decide to extend their options, they will be officially free agents into the market. Now, Clayster is one of the players that will be a free agent anyway, because they no longer have the option after the 1+1 was extended after last season onto this year on the New York Sublanders, of course. He got several offers this season, but wasn't able to take any of them up, largely because New York effectively rejected those opportunities. And when he's a free agent, I imagine he's going to talk a little bit more about this, so I'm sure stay tuned for that one. But based on that evidence, you would imagine he will get a spot next year. Of course, by no means guarantees. He says he's going to get the Plan B streaming content side going, just in case it doesn't happen. He also mentions right here in reply that, yeah, not really sure if he'll want to do coaching yet. He would consider every option. If coaching, analyst desk, caster, or whatever was an option, I think Clay would consider it, as he says, or general manager or something would be kind of interesting. But maybe that's, well, hopefully for Clayster at least, that's in 1, 2, 3 years' time, and Clay can still keep competing for now. And I think he will get a spot somewhere. There will be teams that will be considering Clayster's services, I would imagine. Let's talk about the OpTic's stuff then. Of course, OpTic, crazy storyline for them. Look, I don't think they made a mistake at all dropping Envoy for Shotzi at the start of the year. It makes sense. We're also going into Modern Warfare, but it must be said it's not a great look for OpTic as an organization and as, let's say, a team culture that, you know, a lot of players that were in their system that are then removed end up finding themselves winning next year, right? And Envoy caught a fair bit of flack last year, right, for the way he was playing and the fact that, you know, he maybe wasn't good in 4v4 or whatever, but maybe it turns out that the players aren't necessarily the problem on the OpTic side, and there's some other things going on in that camp, right? Because it seems like a lot of the players who leave that camp, Clayster back in Ghost, even though that's a long time ago, and then of course more recently Crimsix after 2019 into 2020 wins champs there. Arcitys didn't get dropped, but he was let go and just asked to leave effectively to go to FaZe. He wins champs the next year. Envoy now leaves OpTic, wins champs the next year, so there's definitely something to be said about that. So I'm sure that storyline might continue going forward, but it is great for Envoy. I'm sure a lot of his old OpTic Chicago teammates are so happy for him that he's managed to get this victory. Like, I'm just a little too icy, he says right here. Of course, former teammate in Scump, but that's the thing, right? Is there an OpTic dropping someone, Kurs? Is that a reality? I'm sure, as I said, there might be more to talk about that in the coming days, because it does seem to be a rather consistent trend now. Now, Hex doesn't necessarily agree, right? At the start of the season, this actually came up right at the start of the year. The COD League put this out, I think, at the Kickoff Classic and said future 2022 champ, and then COD League come out and say simply an observation. Now, Hex says, want to hear my observation, right? That's the thing. Hex has not been particularly happy with the way the CDL has run certain things lately, and well, for many reasons, and understandably so, to be honest. So Hex is saying, look, want to hear my kind of observation on the league in general, right? So yeah, not happy about the CDL talking about OpTic in this way, I suppose, but yeah, definitely tweet your thoughts on that one in the comment section below. Let's talk about the Scump part of the puzzle then, of course, because that's the big question to me at OpTic is, like, look, I don't think they're going to make a change. Shotzi and iLLeY, technically, I think are free agents. There might be more to talk about that on that tomorrow, but I think you'd imagine they'll re-sign with the team, and you'd imagine Scump and of course Dashy are going to stay as well. The only question mark really is Scump going to retire? Is he going to step away? Is he going to say, okay, I've had enough of Call of Duty, like, this is it effectively? But I don't think that's going to be the case. We'll look at the tweets here though that might give some indication on what he's going to do. As Scump says, I texted them actually, I saw them in person, but go off right saying, you know, he was effectively congratulating former teammate Envoy, and I mean his team with Octane, of course, right, back in the day as well on the World War II OpTic team. Even as iLLeY says, GG's to everyone we played at the tourney. Heartbreaking way to end the year. Congrats to Thieves on the W. And that's what Scump says as well. GG's to the team we played. So upset with the result, but it is what it is. Huge congrats to Thieves. They played lights out the last 2 tournaments, right? So they thought this is interesting, right? Saying he's super upset, which of course makes sense, but I think this is a good sign really if you're an OpTic fan, right? Because this just shows he's still got the passion. Like, I don't think Scump will want to step away until he loses a tournament and says, oh, okay, you know, whatever, it's just another tournament. Like, if Scump really, like, and yeah, he's obviously been upset when he's gone out of the World Championship the last few years. He's obviously been incredibly frustrated and distraught at times, as he says here. Like, he's super upset with the results, which is a good thing. Like, if he is upset with the results, it shows that he's still got the passion and the drive and the willingness and the ability, clearly, to compete at the top of his game. And if that's the case, I don't think Scump's going to step away. When he loses the passion and thinks, okay, whatever, another 3rd place, 4th place at champs, like, you know, it's fine, I'll go again next year, maybe I won't, then that's when you... then that's when I think Scump would really consider the content route. But as it is, I don't imagine that's going to be the case. And even as he says, this was hands down the hardest year as a competitor I've ever had. I think I aged 5 years with how stressed I was, right? So that's the thing. The iLLeY situation didn't help them at all. Like, you know, all the drama that's been going on there hasn't been ideal for the OpTic team. And that's, I think, what Scump will think as well, because they knew what this team was capable of. They delivered on their capability at the start of the season. The iLLeY situation happens and they fail to recover. Now, look, that is a consistent trend. Other teams, other team cultures might have been able to recover and adapt better than OpTic have done traditionally, but still, Scump might look at this year and think, look, we knew what we were capable of. Let's run it back next year on a different game with hopefully no distractions from start to finish, and then greater things that are still possible with this lineup, right? So I think that's a question that they probably will ask themselves, but I think that Scump, knowing that it was like the hardest year ever, does he want to go out on a year like that? I kind of doubt it. I think there's still more in the tank for Scump as well, and he knows it. Like, he still played pretty well this tournament, all things considered, was the better SMG, no doubt, of the two on his roster at the very least. And he does go on to say, look, of course, thanks to all the true supporters throughout the season, you don't understand how much we appreciate your words when things aren't always going the best. So yeah, love you guys. So yeah, I think reading this is like, yeah, Scump still wants to keep sticking around. Of course, to a certain degree, it depends on the game, right? I think he said that it depends on Modern Warfare 2, whether it's any good or not, whether he actually wants to keep competing. So I guess we'll see about that. If the game is just terrible, Scump might decide to step away regardless of what kind of, well, the things I've mentioned over the last few minutes. He was just joking here, by the way, to Proloot, right? Proloot says, that's on me. You won't lie. Like, it wasn't Proloot's fault, obviously. It wasn't really anyone's fault. Like, he got the injury, but can't necessarily blame that on him. These things happen, and he did go on to clarify that he was just kind of joking about this and wasn't trying to roast Proloot or anything along those lines. And even Boozny says right here, like, I'm effectively talking about competing and content, all this type of stuff. Hope to see you live after a well-deserved break. And he says, thanks for the words. Right, so yeah, Scump will be getting live. I'm sure we'll get his thoughts in due course, but it might be quite a while away because I'm sure Scump is going to take some well-deserved time off after a difficult season. But yes, OpTic top 4, $160,000 in the bank at the end of the tournament. Not the result they wanted, not the result Scump wanted, but I think on recent performances, this is probably about where you'd have thought Texas would have placed in this tournament. And all things considered, OpTic did win an event this year. They did achieve that aim, at least, to win an event, but I feel like I'm sure they'll look back and think, well, this year could have been so much better than it was, right? They looked like they were on course for kind of dominance, at least winning a couple of events, maybe 3 events, doing a better job at competing at the World Championship than they did. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, OpTic can take this and move forward with confidence, and maybe knowing that next year, if the iLLeY situation doesn't happen, it could be a rather different story, right? But yeah, losing, of course, as they did to Thieves in the second round, and then to Surge in the losers bracket, like, of course, well, 2 teams that came top 3 at the tournament, but that, of course, is not exactly good enough. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. The other part of this, of course, is that Vanguard is officially over and done with now, and as Crone says, rate the Vanguard season out of 10. In terms of the, like, there's different ways you can rate it, to be honest. In terms of the game, like, one of the worst it's ever been. In terms of storylines and drama, pretty damn good, right? I mean, there was the whole iLLeY saga that happened, a decent amount of roster changes and drama between players, not quite as much as last season, right? The Hook saga was immense, and the whole Los Angeles Thieves, like, the Hook swap was crazy. So I think in terms of storylines, last year did eclipse this season, and in terms of actually watching the game, it also wasn't great, but there was certainly some entertainment to be had. So yeah, definitely intrigued to your ratings of this one in the comment section below, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff down there. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.